All right, let's get this stuff done. We want to add some more lodging to our landscape material, all right? So far we only have one thing, which is basically just the tiling, and created like a smart material and a material instance. But yeah, we need to do a lot more. For that, let's just go to material here. And again, we get a material function. Okay, so you can also find this under material advanced material function. And we call this one mf underscore distance blend. Okay, just open that one up. So we have an output here. And what we need to do is we need to get a texture sample. And we need to get another texture sample because we want to have like a distance blend, like also far and near. And we want to basically not only have this tiled as we already have, but we want to blend in between like our position and stuff like that. So first things first, we need a function input again. Just type in function if I can type. And we put this one here. And this one would be a vector 2. And we call this one tiling near. Just copy that. And call this vector 2D, the copy. Name this tiling far. And you can hook them up, all right, like so. And then out of this texture here, just drag out and get a function, like another function input, but this time it would already be automatically, because we dragged it out from texture. It is a texture 2D, which is basically fine. And then we need this for both, for far, for near and far. Then we need to lerp those two things. So just press L and click, or just search for linear interpolate. And what we do need is a so-called function input again, but this time this is just a scalar here, input scalar parameter, and you can hook this one up here so that we can blend in between those things, and then you just hook that one up. So this is just the base logic for our distance blend. Of course we do not have textures here, but this is perfectly fine. This texture will be applied later. So now this is just the logic. So let's just apply and save. And this is it for now. Okay, so we need to create another material instance. So before we do that, let's just rename this to texture blend. So material function texture blend. Because actually now we need to do the material advanced material function. And this one would be the distance, the actual distance blend logic. So we open that one up as well. So now we have our third material function. And we start by getting a pixel depth offset. This is basically just creating our blend according to where we are, like our, where I should say our viewport or the camera. And then we can adjust the distance and blend it with our textures, basically. So we need to press A and click, so get an add node. We put this one inside here. And for this, we need a scalar parameter. We call this one start fade. So we need a start fade, and then we need an end fade distance, basically. So set this one to default, I don't know, 600 maybe. Let's do 500 default value. And we hook this one up. But before we hook this one up, we need a 1-. The reason why we use a 1-, we don't need to, but it's easier for us to understand, because this is inverted. This value is inverted. So when we increase the value, the fade gets less. So this is the reason why we just invert the value, and then it makes more sense for us. And then keep holding S and click again to get another scalar parameter. And this one is the end fade distance. And we set this one also to something like, let's do 800. No, let's do 750. It's just the default value. We will tweak it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, and this one we need to divide. So keep holding D, click, and we put this one, the add first into the A. So our start divided by end. And we want to make sure that we clamp the value. So this one goes into the input of the clamp. 0 and 1 is perfectly fine. And then we just, boom, then we can just, let's just organize this. Okay, perfect. Just to make things a little cleaner. All right, this is it for the function, for this function. Okay. So now, the next thing we have to do is, let's go back into the texture blend. So the first material function we did in this video here, in this lesson, because I want to make sure that the near sort priority is 0, the far is once, okay, is not once, is 1, and the input here, the input scalar, input in is 2, okay, and just rename this one instead of like in_1. This is just called distance logic. Rename this to distance logic, and then you're good to go. So just make sure that this one is priority 0, this is 1, so near, far, and then the input will be at sort priority 2, which means it's now our material function or a node is organized. Now we can close everything and we go back to the M landscape. So this is what you have. So here we need to change a couple of things. First, let's disconnect everything. Except for this, you don't need to disconnect this because we will just keep using it. Okay, just disconnect the texture sample. But we need to change this to texture object. So just convert this, because when we get the texture blend and also the distance blend, we need to put this one here. Okay. So in front, and our texture object is now part of this. Now we can hook this one up here. Otherwise, if it's just a texture sample, we cannot connect that. Okay, so now let's add the tiling. We already have that. We just put this aside. So the near is the tiling near. Maybe I should rename this because I have a typo. The texture blend. So this is not this is called tiling near and not tiling near. Save that. And the far is the far. So of course you can copy this tiling near parameter and hook this one to the far. And you call this one, of course, tiling far. Boom, that's it. And the distance blend, put this one into the distance blend. And just organize things. And then you can put in the result into the base color. And this should look like that, okay? And then you can just apply and save. Now let's just wait for the shaders to prepare. Let's close that. And when we open up our landscape material instance, right? Let's just go to the instance. We have now full control with the end, start, fade, tiling far and tiling near. If this is bothering you, that far and near, you can just sort this one out. Okay, this is why. Sorry, let's just... This is the sort priority. Let's put this to 0 and let's put this to 1 inside the M landscape. And now you fixed that. Okay, so now you have the tiling near, far, end, fade distance, start, fade distance. This means you need to go to the distance blend. Here it is. Let's put this one to 2 and the end to 4. Apply and save. And now, yeah, now it's perfect. So you don't need to do this, but now you understand how to sort things out in your material instance. Okay. So now this is it basically for the distance fade, the blend. So the tiling, basically the blend between a small texture and a bigger texture. So when I just zoom out, let me make this a little faster. So if I just zoom out, you can see like this huge texture. If I zoom in, you can see it's blending. And you can play with those values, of course. So just open up your landscape like material instance. Just minimize that, and then you can just maybe, it depends on your scene. We have now default values, but you can just readjust. So for example, so the tiling far, let's set the tiling far to something like 8, so it's a little smaller. Maybe this is better. And so yeah, it's 4 times bigger than compared to the near tiling. And then maybe you have a perspective like this, and then maybe let's get the start fade distance to something like 300. And then the tiling will be more visible near us, the bigger tiling. Or do something like 1000, then it's far away. So, but I believe 500, let's do 350, for example. And the end fade, let's do 1000. And then you can see that the fade for the near is much longer. But 500 should be a good value. You can cut this one off, like so. Then you have a nice cut. So maybe 350 is good. So this is how you blend between two different sized or two different UVs. So you have a bigger one from the distance and you have a smaller one. Okay, so this is working like a charm right now. So everything is clean, and this is pretty like we're using pretty simple logic, but still it's really effective. So yeah, and the next thing we will just continue to enhance our landscape logic.